Ni hao. This means hello in Chinese. Until 12 months ago, I didn't know this word existed. I also didn't know that a pink floppy hat was an omen of success. But more about that later. So why travel to China? China is not exactly a family holiday destination. I'll be honest, I was very reluctant to go. Firstly, flight MA370 to Beijing had just vanished. And secondly, Chinese movies always seem to be violent. Unfortunately, being 11 years old doesn't give you much voting power. Our choice of destination was based on it being the biggest country we know the littlest about. So off we went, into the unknown, traveling light, backpacker style. Our combined luggage was just 30 kgs. This was lucky because boy, did we walk. The only bookings we made were the flights and 2 nights accommodation. The rest was a daily adventure. Navigating in a country where less than 1% of the population speaks English is fun. We all helped spot signs, find info, and for once, there was a leveled playing field. Our parents hardly knew any more than we did. Our first mission was to walk the Great Wall of China. We booked a tour, but it was cancelled because of rain. So we got our own car and went anyway. This was totally the best decision because the crowd stayed away and we had this wonder of the world to ourselves. When we left Beijing, we did so at 300 kilometers per hour on a bullet train. But in Xi'an, we slowed down using bicycles along the inner city streets. I'm glad my parents had chilled. Cycling in China would give most foreigners a heart attack. Bicycles and scooters just go anywhere. With the traffic, against the traffic, on the pavements, even around the traffic circles, in the wrong direction. My favorite was riding on the ancient city walls of Xi'an. It's a 14-kilometer ride, 12 meters up off the ground. I remember that day because it was the first time I learned how to ride my bike with no hands. Later, as we traveled onwards from Xi'an to Yangshuo, we discovered that most ideas we had about China, I think you call them prejudices, were totally incorrect. Like, Chinese stuff is Hong Kong, cheap and worthless. Wrong. The malls, airports, stations, and attractions we saw were seriously grand, with polished granite floors. China is dirty. Not really. Lots of people certainly equals lots of mess. But wherever we went, cleaners were sweeping and their bins are split for recycling. Chinese people eat dogs. Personally, I don't think this is very common. Every day we saw people walking their dogs and speaking to them like children. We failed to find dog meat on a single menu. Instead, I tried deep-fried scorpion. Does it have a stinging aftertaste? That's for you to find out. And my own prejudice, that China wasn't safe. After posing for countless selfies and meeting super helpful people, I now rate China the safest place I've ever been. There is hardly any crime and no warnings about security anywhere. And so, as we traveled on, our baggage of fears got less and less, and we had more and more fun. In Yangshuo, famous for its karst mountains and rice paddies, we did a full-day self-guided scooter tour around the rural areas. It was my first time to ride a scooter. I steered, braked, and controlled everything. Luckily, my dad is not a panic mechanic. He sat behind me, trying to look cool. Only once or twice did I see his eyes widen and his knuckle grip go white. My most memorable place was Mount Hushan. The trail to the summit is only 6 kilometers long, but it goes 1.7 kilometers vertically up. It was a 30-degree summer day. There was a perfectly good cable car to the top. But do you think I won the vote to take it? No. We walked thousands and thousands of granite steps. At last, after 5.5 hours of walking, we celebrated my 12th birthday at the top. But if you think a mountain summit in China is a place to find solitude, think again. We estimated there were about 10,000 people up there on that day. We slept in a hiking trail hut at the eastern summit and got up at 4 a.m. for sunrise. Oops, at least 2,000 people got there before us. We couldn't even get to the cliff edge. It was 4 deep with smartphones. But finally, I found a place where it was serene. It was a Buddhist shrine at the end of what's called the most dangerous trail in the world. I think I first saw this plank walk on a Facebook post, one of those viral pictures that gets millions of likes. Here in SA, we're used to extreme activities being closely guided, but on the plank in the sky, you're on your own. We hired some climbing cowtails, but the carabiners were wonky and more for decoration than for safety. And seriously, what good is a chest harness on a girl who doesn't even have a chest? Then, just as this adventure started to feel like a bad idea, she appeared, a Chinese girl wearing a pink floppy hat. Returning safely from the plank, we decided that this meant anything is possible. So off we went, more than 5,000 feet above the ground, using footholds carved out of this cliff, or balancing on wooden planks. There was a two-way traffic too, with no common language except fear. Here I am now, a year later. I'm glad I clicked like on that original plank walk picture. Gladder that the place actually exists, and the gladdest that I got to share it with you today. Share, thank you.